You see what I'm working with today? Master Gardener Chi-Chi decided that he has to be involved with everything that I'm doing. So he's on the table and he's already picking at my tomato plants. Chi-Chi, what are you doing? No. Get down. Go. Down. Thank you. Guess that's life with a pet rooster. Hi everybody, I'm Sarah and welcome to the Big Blue House Homestead. I apologize for background noise, but we are building more hen boxes for the hens to lay eggs in, and so Brian's over there on a saw. Big yard, big, acreage, but you can still hear everything because it's nice and quiet. Today I'm going to be talking about weirdos. Those weird tomato plants that you have to figure out how to get in the ground now. Alright, my best advice to give to you is that you need to watch multiple videos. You need to go through and watch lots of people, see all the methods that they do, and choose what's best for yourself. I personally am not saying that my method is the best, but I'm saying that everybody's is, because I have picked and choose from who I like, who I've learned from, and who has, great production and great plants and all of that, and I've kind of thrown all that information together. So I should have probably up-potted these a long time ago, but I was holding on to hope because the weather has been so cold. I was just hoping there would be one day where I could just get the tomato plants out. And if I would have taken the time to up-pot them all, I wouldn't have had the room anyway. It wouldn't have fit in my greenhouse. And you can see the difference. I mean, this one I up-potted because the stem actually broke. That's why it's kind of funky in the pot. And I wanted to establish more roots, but see, you can see the difference. They're still gonna grow the same. It's not going to matter what your plants look like. It's just how you get them into the ground and then what you do from that point forward. In fact, if you look at this one, I've already got a sucker starting and I don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and pinch that off, and I got another little small one there. I'm going to pinch those off. With the bigger plants, you have to prune them quicker. You have to pull buds if you don't want them to start tomatoes immediately. There's a lot more work with the larger plants. With the smaller ones, not so much. So I'm gonna go grab my pruning shears and we're gonna talk about getting all these tomatoes in the ground today. I have waited. I'm a month behind because of the weather, and I'm so excited that today is my first official planting in the garden day. Okay, I went and grabbed my pruners. I actually prefer these little scissor type. They're very easy to use, but you can use the smaller ones. If you have larger snips, I guess that's okay too. But if you can get yourself a pair of these work great for thinning out plants as well. Any of your small sprouts, you just snip, snip, snip. So they're good to go. But the reason why I got my snips is because I have to sort all of these plants. I need to put all the same types together. A lot of them are marked in the trays, but some of them didn't all make it in the same order. And because I've moved the trays so many times, I have mixed up plants everywhere. But what I want to talk about now, after I've just rambled, before I sort the plants, I'm going to go ahead and show you. When I take these yucky looking tomato plants, I snip off all these leaves. I don't need those because in reality I'm going to plant to about here. I put that in the dirt completely, and so I'm going to, while I sort, I'm going to clean up the tomato plants. Ones like these, the larger ones, they don't really need them, except where the suckers were coming through. Well, I already pulled those off earlier. And I'll probably plant this plant to about here because it was broken. But any of the leaves that just don't look right, like see how these have all this damage on them? I don't need those. So I'm going to snip all these off. And I'm also going to get these little ones down here at the bottom because I don't want that in the ground. And so it may look like I just killed my plant because I took all the leaves off, but tomatoes are very hardy and they will grow a root system through all of this. And I will again bury this one probably to about here in the ground. Okay, so another example, here's another really bad, horribly leggy plant. This just happened because I didn't have the correct light on them to begin with. I stuck them in the greenhouse and they got, crowded because there's a lot of plants here. They got crowded and they worked their way around. But again, I'm just going to snip all these bottom leaves off because I don't need those. And then when I'm looking, it's a little windy, but when I'm looking at the tops, you see how these leaves look bad? Well, I don't want to snip the whole thing because it just, takes all the leaves away. So I'm just going to come through and snip this one little leaf off. So I'm just going to remove the one little bad looking leaf, and I'll do it on this one as well. If you're scared to do that, just wait, put your plants in the ground and give them some time to start to grow and let them build up and get stronger and sturdier, and then you can clip those things off. But to me, I'm just going to do it beforehand so that I don't have to start pruning at least for a couple weeks. But yeah, I'm going to sort out all the plants and we'll come back to that. Okay, I wanted to show this plant because you see how many leaves are on there. I could stick this straight in the ground as is, but I want to create that stem still, so I'm actually going to pluck off all of these bottom leaves on both sides. And I'll probably just leave it to about here and put that in the ground. And I'm sorry, I'm staring at the sun. It's coming up still, so it's like right above me. But yeah, so now I've pruned that one down. So I'm sorry I keep coming back and showing you more and more while I'm still sorting, but I just wanted to show you what I'm dealing with and kind of give you some insight and teaching, so to speak. Just let you know what you can do. So this plant, for example, has 2 tomatoes grown out of it. I don't know if this second one is the mortgage lifter. I know this one is taller and more established. So when I go to plant this in the garden, I'm actually not going to plant this one with it. I'll separate it. And that way, if it's not a mortgage lifter, then I don't have chance of cross-pollinations, things like that. The leaves look very, very similar, but most tomato leaves do look the same. So it's kind of hard to tell. But I don't know if you can tell on camera, but this stem is a lot more purple. So it makes me think that that is not a mortgage lifter. It's probably something else. So this one will go into a mystery pot, and this one will go in with the rest of them. Okay, so I'm not done sorting, but I did get a whole tray full of mortgage lifters ready. I don't think it's all of them. I'm actually probably missing a few, but as I sort through and I find them, I'll take those down to the garden too. First things first though, before you plant, go ahead and wet all of your tomato plants. If you give them a nice water, then they will come out easier and their roots won't stick as bad. So I'm just going to give them a quick water. I'm going to show you the 2 ways that I plant mine, especially since I have my currant tomatoes, which are as long as my arm. And those actually go into a raised bed. So I keep those separate from everything else because they're my snack tomatoes as I walk in the garden. Anyway, I'm going to show you how I plant those, and I'm going to show you how I do the mortgage lifters. So let's head down to the garden and get it done. All right. I do not want to dig a hole that is as long as this plant because it basically would be almost to the bottom of my planter. So what I actually will do is I'm going to lay the plant down. Smaller ones are okay. I can just plant that one as is. I have another small one, and that can go in as is. But yeah, these really long ones, I want to lay down because I want them to turn their facing upwards. They will actually start to turn up, and then I can bury the stem in a lengthways instead of deep down in it. All right, so I've got my tray of tomatoes. I should have brought my kneeling pad, but that's okay. I'll survive. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take my tomatoes and I'm going to lay them down. And I'm just going to do that the length of my garden bed. Okay, so you can see where I've lined them up. I'm actually doing them on both sides. This process takes time. What you're going to have to do is wait for the sun to come out a little stronger and these tomato plants to start to turn upward. And so I usually set up all my tomatoes out in my garden all in one day and then start planting either later that evening or the next morning where they've had a chance to turn upward. And I'll show you how I do that after they are ready because it's not that hard. But if you have leggy plants, don't give up on them. This is very, very simple. It just takes a little bit of extra time. And I have this bare spot on my table because I have the whole tray in the garden. I'm going to keep sorting, and I'm going to keep my tray actually beside my camera on my shelf. That way, as I find more mortgage lifters, I can just set them in here. This is basically how I do it because I grow too many plants and I put in way too many tomatoes every year, more than sometimes I can handle, but I preserve it all by canning and dehydrating and freezing. I make a lot of sauce, a lot of salsas, tomato jams, all sorts of stuff, and we'll get into that when tomatoes start to come in. But I just wanted to talk about this process. I'll wait about an hour and I'll go check on those tomatoes and see if they're turning upward. But I'm going to sort everything, prune it, get it ready because it is planting time. Okay, so it's been about an hour. I've had all my plants out. I actually laid all the plants in the entire garden while I was doing that. And as you can see, the plant has actually turned upwards to face the sun. And that's what you're looking for. As soon as it does that, then you're going to trench it and bury all of the stem under the dirt. When you do that, it will start to form roots through here and it'll give it a really good strong root system. And then it'll help the tomato actually grow and take in more nutrients as well as more water and all of that stuff. And it's really important. But like I said, check out other YouTubers as well. Everybody does things differently. But when it comes to leggy plants, I mean, I have to admit, having a plant that faces towards the sun makes it a lot easier. But what I'm doing is I'm going to plant about, I usually do a finger and a thumb width away from my cage because it gives me a chance to space between the tomatoes on both sides. If you're doing this with just a stake or anything, you don't have to worry about that. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my finger width and I'm going to draw my line. That way I know the length that I need to dig. I'm going to move my tomato plant and I'm just going to dig a big trench. It needs to be deeper on the side that you're putting the root ball into. It doesn't matter so much on the other sides, but you know, it's all up to you with the gauge that you want to go depth-wise. I have some crushed up eggshells and I'm going to sprinkle that in there and I'm doing the whole length so that they can get all the nutrients and calcium from that. And then I have a bag of organic plant food. I'm just going to take and sprinkle about a small handful across that, and that will keep my plant fed for a very long time. Okay, I removed my tomato and you can see it's a little root bound. I have to watch out because I actually have rocks in the bottom of this because that gave my roots some chance to not drown. So I'm taking my rocks out. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay the tomato plant into the dirt and then I'm going to fill that back up. Watch out for rocks in your gardens as well because you don't want that. It doesn't help your plants grow. Okay, now that I've done this one, when I'm looking at my second one, oh, there's a piece of metal. That's not going to help. When I'm looking at my second one, I know where my root system ended, so I'm going to draw my line. You want to plant your tomatoes about 24 inches apart. I go a little bit closer just because I keep them so well trimmed down and maintained and pruned. So think about that when you're planting your tomatoes. You don't want to put them extremely close, but you don't want them far apart to where you can't fit as many at one time. This is kind of like doing square foot spacing in a way. So I'm going to go ahead and bury my second one and do the same thing. Even these really long plants, they turned upright to the sun. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trench out a big spot for them. I might have to go diagonal. This one's a little long. And I'm going to go ahead and add my fertilizers and stuff as well. All right, now that I've got the fertilizer in, I'm just going to remove my plant, take out the rocks in the bottom. All right, and I'm going to lay my plant in. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper. right, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill this bed up. When you're looking at the smaller ones, because I'm dealing with the leggy plants and then I have some that look normal, what I'm actually doing is I'm going to fill in the gaps in between so that I don't end up redigging over the root systems already. I want to try to, you know, eliminate some of that. So I'm just going to take the rocks out again, and I'm just dug a deep hole, and I'm just going to put my tomato in. When you plant with a regular tomato, you want to go a depth down, and you want to at least go to about here. Give yourself a good plant system, but you want the root system to start on the stalks, on the actual so you want the roots to start on the stalks, and then all I'm going to do is bury that one. So as of now, you can see I have a tall plant and I have a short plant, but it's all going to even out. They're going to grow the same. So we're going to go ahead and get all the tomatoes planted. Okay, so that was just like a quick showing of how I put those in. In the meantime, while I let my plants sit to turn towards the sunlight, I actually moved all of my tomato plants out to the garden, and I counted and I did all the stuff that I needed to. And it was like 178 plants, so that's not bad. I ended up with 5 cups that were empty and 1 tomato plant that I just don't think is gonna make it. Sad little guy. I went to pull the cups out, and because they were kind of intertangled from the legginess, I grabbed this one and it snapped a little. So I reburied it a little higher with more dirt, and I've given it some water, and the stem itself staying strong. It's just weak on the leaves. So I'm going to give it overnight and see what happens. But I'm going to get to work getting all these tomatoes put in today. Hopefully I can get them all finished. If not, I'll finish tomorrow morning, because I have 2 tables worth of plants here. I moved everything out of my greenhouse and it's all completely hardened off, and I'm just going to leave it out now. I don't want to move it back in. I'm done. This all needs to go in the garden. So I'm going to focus on the tomatoes tonight, well, today, tonight, and in the morning, and finish those up. And then I'm going to start moving in with probably the peppers. I think peppers may be next, because I have the largest amount of peppers next. But I'll start seeding here in a couple days too. And when you come back to see my garden in a couple weeks, you will be amazed at how much stuff I have stuck in and piled up on top of each other. But all the stuff that I've like stuck in together and piled up, and how I've intermingled all the plants and all of that. So please come back and see more. The garden's in and it is going to be growing, and it's almost 100% there. I just have to get to work. So thank you guys for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.